Hello, hello, and welcome to the Color Whisperer Show. I got a frog in my throat. Where we talk about all things home and healing. And I was missed last week because I actually went camping and I went on a no electronics. Where we were, there was no Wi Fi, there was no cell phones, there was no nothing. Now, some of you aren't old enough to remember what it was like to not have these little contraptions in our hand all the time. But for those of us who do remember when your radios always had speakers, they took up some of them took up half the size of the room. But your cell phone, when your telephone was on the wall or on a table, it had a cord and it could only go so far. And we weren't ruled as much by these contraptions. And, I remember when I was a kid, if the telephone rang during dinner, you did not answer it. Nowadays, you go to the restaurant and you'll see a family sitting there, and this is supposed to be family time, and half of them are sitting there on their phones. So, anyway, it was absolutely amazing. There was no sales calls, there was no ads in front of me, there was no hang-ups. I get a bunch of phone calls that are just people hanging up, and I'm like, what the? Anyway, it's annoying. And so I was electronics free for 9 days. Now, do I want to go electronics free forever? Probably not. There's some advantages to it, but it was so good to get away from everything. And so good to not have that constant pull of, oh my gosh, I live in LA, so I know some of the rest of the country you live in slower times. But here there's just always this rush, 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 rush. And I mean, I have, I have friends that tease me because when I was in England and they'd want to know how many miles is it to get somewhere. It doesn't matter how many miles this is. We always tell distance in minutes because at the right time of day, it could take you 2 hours to go, 10 miles. One of my showrooms that I love. If I go at the right time of day, I can get there in 40 minutes. Piece of cake. No problem. I go at the wrong time of day, it can literally take me 2 hours to get there. So, what is it, 40 miles, 35 miles, whatever it is? Kind of doesn't matter how many miles it is. It matters how long it takes to get there. So, anyway, I didn't have to worry about that. I got up with the sun. We ate. Went to bed with the sun. I listened to the frogs. First night, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get to sleep. These frogs are so loud. But I did. And it was just really nice to take a little break from the world. So it's important to give yourself space, to give yourself time to do that. It doesn't have to be 9 days, maybe it's 2 days, but we forget about taking vacations. We forget about giving ourselves time because we're always like, somebody wants me, somebody wants me, somebody wants me. Guess what? You get to want you too. It's very important to have that time for you. So, anyway, that's my healing part for the day. And we can go on more if you have any questions about it. But today we are doing a Q&A. So some of you have been sending in questions, which I really appreciate. And if you have any questions, then send them in. And Mark, is there a way they can send pictures if they want to not just ask a question, but if they want to ask a question and send a picture, are they able to do that? He's busy. We'll find out. So anyway, if oh, here he is. Hey, Mark.
Hey there, you asked a question. Yes, they can send it to my email, bluesradio@gmail.com, if they want to send in a picture and all along those lines. So they can definitely do that and all along that kind of space. I was also going to tease you because it sounds like you were hanging out with Kermit. So I was going like, was he hanging out with Kermit the Frog and everything? Because she was talking about these loud frogs, and I was going like, that sounds like Kermit. So I didn't know maybe you were hanging out with Kermit and all in that space.
Oh no, I don't know if any of them were named Kermit, but man, they were loud.
They were, well, Kermit used to be loud. He used to hang out with Miss Piggy, and he used to be loud as well. I did have two questions that came in from the audience, so I will ask them really quickly, and then you can think about the other questions that you got as well. But if there is a child that is out there and they want to paint their room yellow or purple, as a interior designer, do you think that that is a good thing? That is the first question, because I know sometimes you're all about people wanting to express themselves. So maybe the kid has like some unusual color. I mean, yellow may not be all that unusual, but maybe they want to do, because I know a lot of people, and Prince just recently celebrated what would have been his birthday and everything. So maybe they want to do psychedelic purple or purple. So that's question number one. And then question number two is, should the furniture that you get your pet match the furniture of the house?
Ah, okay. So we're going to start with a kid question. Now,
Okay.
you may or may not remember several years ago, there was a movie, and it actually had three different versions of the movie, three in a series called Shrek. Do you remember that?
I do remember Shrek. My dad actually had me come watch Shrek with my younger brother. It was before the nephews were born, so it was probably the first Shrek and everything along those lines, because he loves Shrek, because Shrek has both adult humor as well as kid humor, because it is a kid movie, but there are some subliminal messages within the movie that are for the adults, but you have to be listening, you have to catch them, but there are definitely some adult themes that are in Shrek, and dad was
Yeah.
pointing that out to us at the time.
So, and you probably didn't notice what was going on in the design world at that time because partially your age and partially, you probably just didn't care. But what happened at that time, see, different, we're influenced by color in many ways. The color marketing group looks at movies, they look at songs, they look at artists, they look at all kinds of influences to determine what the next color of the year was. So when that first Shrek movie came out, that, I'm going to call it Shrek Green, with that kind of
Mhm.
lime green, was everywhere. Why? Because and by the time the second one came out, oh my gosh, I got so sick of lime green. I was just like, it's pretty, but like, let's move on. But what happened was, when you went to go see Shrek, how did you feel? You left the theater feeling happy. You left the feel
Yeah,
like it was a real feel good movie, right?
yeah.
And so what happened? You had a lot of kids. Oh, mommy, I want Shrek. Mommy, I want Shrek from my bedroom. Well, it was this kind of lime green, which was,
It's non-stop. I won't fold. I won't
Yeah.
drop.
Hold on.
oops,
Yep.
we're having all
Whoop.
kinds of tech challenges today. It's all good. So that lime green was kind of a funky color to work with. But here's the thing, because it wasn't just a kids movie, like you said, a lot of adults walked out of there and they went, "Ooh, I feel good too."
Right.
They wanted that green. They wanted to bring that feel good moment that they had when they left that theater. And Shrek is a happy guy. He may be ugly, but oh my gosh, how can they, a big old grin? How can it just makes you feel good when somebody grins at you with their whole heart like that, right?
Right.
And so there was even a lot of adults that wanted that Shrek influence in their house. They wanted that feel good green. And green also helps you deal with emotions. And
Mhm.
so it helps you deal with change. And so it was a overall feel good color. So it was everywhere. And there were very elegant lime green rooms, and they were very playful lime green rooms.
Mhm.
And I remember I went to the showcase house that year, and back then we called it Celadon. And there's this very, very formal dining room, and it was all Celadon, and I was like, wow, you know? And for me personally, it was a little too much Celadon, but the room was beautiful. I wouldn't want to live in it personally, but the room was beautiful. And that's what Showcase House is, to like, how can we create beauty? So these are the different ways that influence us, we're old enough. Remember Madonna and her Vogue thing and Material Girl? Well, pink was everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Now there's an artist Pink, and she, so Pink kind of came back in with when she kind of got, there was a lot more pink because people wanted. Does she wear a lot of pink? Do you know?
I don't know if she wears a lot of pink, but you mentioned Madonna, and apparently there was a recent article that apparently Cyndi Lauper, who was in that same era and everything, regrets the fact that they were encouraged to be rivals. She really wishes that they were more friends than they actually were, because at the time that they were coming out, they were rivals. Cyndi Lauper, who I think did Girls Just Want to Have Fun, and Madonna, who was, of course, the Material Girl. But I read an article where she was upset, wishing that they had been more closely aligned, because I think they're both New Yorkers, if I remember correctly.
I think you're right. It's interesting. I had a friend, this is several years ago. He's 15 years younger than me, and he found Simply Red, and he fell in love with whatever I can't remember it right now. Holding On.
Right.
Anyway, the big song. I think so. I'll Just Keep Holding On, or something like that. Anyway, he fell in love with Simply Red, and he's like, how come this guy didn't make it? Like, why does he only have a couple hits? And I think one thing that you don't, now I don't know what's going on in music today. I don't really care. Admittedly, I don't care. But one thing that, from the 80s is like, there were all those rivalries. And
Right.
it wasn't just about music. It was about the video. Did you have a great video? Did you have this? Did you have that? And who was fighting against who? And it was Brit versus American, and had that huge Brit wave. And you had Simply Red, who was kind of off in Ireland, and it was him and what's her name? Bald. Oh, what's her name?
Sinead O'Connor.
Sinead O'Connor. Like, they were kind of, U2 was from Ireland, but they made it mainland really quick. But they were kind of there in Ireland, kind of going, wait, we're over here. And it seemed harder for them to get beyond Ireland. And like, but there was so much rivalry. And I mean, in my high school, the cliques were based on who you liked. Oh, you're a goth kid. Oh, you're Depeche Mode. Oh, you're Duran Duran. Oh, and people literally made friends based on what bands they liked. And
but no, you're right about that. I was just actually laughing because I think I told you before on this show that my first cultural shock when I went to Milwaukee was going to a party and running into folks that were running into each other, because in the 80s slam dancing was very popular. So I'm going like, I'm not trying to run into you. I'm not trying to slam my body into you. That sounds like that might hurt, and that might lead to a fight as well. So no, I wasn't trying to do that, but it was quite unique going to a party and seeing the whole slam dance, because that was a popular mode in the early 80s.
Oh, and I'm sure that the whole Prince thing in Milwaukee was totally different than where you grew up.
Right.
I mean, Prince was popular where I was, but I was in a school where we were a new wave school. I mean, for the most part. And yes, there are people that like Prince and stuff, but I imagine in Milwaukee, it was a whole different energy around that. They were probably celebrating Prince a lot more than where you were before that.
Yeah, well, I lived in Warrington. We were just getting into the disco era. Hip hop was starting to just take off because hip hop just celebrated its 50th anniversary and everything. So yes, there was a lot of different styles, and of course, my parents, as I've told you before, were into jazz and blues and got me into those genres, but definitely some old school. And I mean old school, like Stevie Wonder and the Emotions type R&B, and a little bit of the funk music was there as well. But definitely Prince was very popular in Milwaukee. I remember that there was that rivalry as well, and that rivalry still goes on because you have people that still do the Prince versus Michael Jackson competitions. So they'll see
Right.
which one they like better.
And speaking of Duran Duran, I just saw an article today. They found the Noggle girl for Rio. So, they kind of, I mean, Noggle had fame, but they took Noggle to a whole new level. And how many girls? I mean, I knew so many girls. My room's red, black, and white. And they took that whole Noggle theme and they did that with their rooms. So that's a very long answer to your short question, but the point is that if your kid needs to express themselves, and they may find a color that you may not like, but it's so important for them to have an avenue of expression for themselves. Now, as long as it's not dangerous. Now, young girls and more likely boys love black. If you've got a goth girl, she likes black. You got a lot of boys like black. Now, do not, under any circumstances, let your child or you paint your room entirely black, because what it will literally can do, and I have a colleague who this actually happened to. This is very real. So, 16-year-old boy, everything's black. They redid the room. Every time she would go over, she'd work on another room. My kid's sick. He's in the hospital. Okay. He comes home. He goes back. My kid's sick and he's in the hospital again. Doctors can't figure it out. Doctors are stymied. He gets well in the hospital. Every time he comes home, he gets sick again. He's back in the hospital. She says, let me see his room. No, we just redid his room. Please let me see his room. No. So several trips to the hospital later, she's like, okay, come in and look at his room. Everything was black. Everything was black. Black is the absence of color. Our bodies physically need color. So it's like energy, communication. So when spring comes and you have that first spring day and it's nice and crisp and cool, and what do? You go outside and you're like, you feel the sun on your body, and the flowers are still coming alive, and it's inspiring and it's exciting, and there's this joy that happens when spring comes in, and there's this rebirth. And that's what happens with your body. Your body's communicating with the color. When there's no communication with the color, the body can literally shut down. So what was happening with this boy was that his adrenals were all shutting down. They couldn't figure out why. Because he spent 90% of his time in his room and he wasn't getting that interaction with color, because it has an effect. You've watched the show, you've heard me talk about how important color is in our lives and how it affects us. So black, it's depressing, let's face it. Now, it can be bold, it can be, but too much black is frankly depressing. And if you're already going through some depression, it's just going to add to it. So they added some blue, they kept some black, just to give it that boldness that he wanted, but they added a lot of blues. And he came home and he didn't have to go back to the hospital again. How amazing is that? I've told my story of the 9/11 girl who had nightmares because she had these wide stripes on her wall and she was dyslexic. So it wasn't like this. It was like this. It looked just like the way the towers did before they fell. And who would ever dream, I need to hire an interior designer to solve my health problems? But we do every day. We solve problems that go way beyond, is this pretty? So do not let your kid paint their room black. All black. You want to have a black bed? That's fine. You want to have a picture that's got a black frame? That's fine. You want to have a black chair? That's fine. But not all black. And kids are growing. They're exploring who they are. So they need to have some, it's a great time to make some color mistakes. And walls are a simple way, let them paint it. Yes, Mark.
What about the pet question and everything? Because, like I said, I know some people are fascinated by wanting their cat spaces to look like the rest of the house, or their cat furniture, or even their dog furniture. I know you've got that cat over there, and I don't have any pet at the moment and everything. But how important is, because I'm even looking here at the center, and we've got our plants and everything. So how important is it for the furniture and even the plants to match the rest of the house decor? So, like, if you're going out to get a what do they call them, a catty corner, or those cat trees and everything, should it match the rest of the house colors? Because I know that they come in different colors as well. And the same with your doghouse, if it's in the inside, even though most doghouses are outside and everything. But should they match with the rest of the house?
Sure. So Pixie's actually here today, but she's sitting. I have a computer cabinet that I'm looking into that you guys don't get to see. She's sitting on the top of it. So she's very present here today and putting her presence in, but she's just not in front of the camera. when I do it in the other room, she likes to be in front of the camera, but she's found her high spot, I guess. So yes, anything in your house, I don't care what it is, needs to be in harmony with the home. So blending, that doesn't mean everything in your house needs to be the same color. That doesn't mean everything in the house needs to be monochromatic. That doesn't mean everything in the house needs to be the exact same style. It needs to be in harmony. Like an orchestra has many different instruments and many different parts. I played violin when I was in school. When I was third string, I was second string, I was first string. They're all very different parts. The cellos have a different part. The bass has a different part. The you start adding band and you get the drums have a different. Everybody has their flavor to put towards the overall sound. There has been some really cool new things. Like they have, I guess it could be a dog thing too, because it's got a lot of little dogs. They have dog crates that look like side tables. They have litter boxes that look like side tables. I saw a cat tree. Oh my gosh, it was so cool. I was like, oh, I wish I had a spot for this in my house. It was an actual tree. It was a cat tree. So it had all the things that, the rugs and stuff, but it was huge and it was in the shape of a tree. And I thought, oh, I would love that. And I don't know if the cats care. I don't know how much they know, but it was very decorative. And there's even catios. If you've seen those, and those can be quite ornate. And I've seen some pictures where people cats like to climb. I mean, it's Miss Pixie sitting on top of the computer counter, looking down at me at the moment. But where they take boards and they create places for the cats to climb, and they do it in pictures. So maybe it is kind of like a tree, or it's very more abstract art, but they have the different pieces in such and done in an artistic way. So while it is a cat tree of sorts, it's also decorative. So I think, there are babies. I mean, they are, and they're proud of the house. And the house should be comfortable for them as well. And How far you want to take that comfort is up to you. But I do
Yeah.
think that it can be beautiful as well. And there's so many different colors in dog beds and everything. I think that it's not too hard to find a way to do it. I have one client who her dog is her world, and it's got dog beds all over the house. And so I have whenever I'm doing space planning for her, I have to make sure there's a spot for the dog bed
Mhm.
because it's going to be there. There's no point designing it without it there because it's going to be there.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I know my brother, a lot of times the dogs that he has, and it's a fairly big dog, spends its time in the porch area. So the dog has definitely got some time there. But of course, he's my two nephews love that dog, so the dog does make its way into the house as well. But I do know that some of the time the dog is on the outside because it's a porch area that goes into the backyard, as I'm recalling my brother's house and everything. But I do know that sometimes that's where the dog stays at and everything. But I did see something interesting in that same space on a Instagram video of all things and everything, but it was showing um, a person carrying their cat as they were traveling. Because actually, the show after you is the show about the cruise industry, but they were carrying it, I guess, to the airport and everything, and they were getting different reactions because people were sitting there because they were not used to a cat being that quiet and everything. Because they were getting reaction because the cat was there and he was interested in watching the people as they were going down the escalator, and the cat was just in the carrier and maybe half of his head outside, and the people were going like, wait a minute, that's a very well-mannered cat, because a lot of times they're thinking that cats won't be as well-mannered or even dogs as well. But definitely there was interest in watching the people's reaction on that particular Instagram uh, feed, or reel as it is called.
I've seen cats on leashes. Some cats can
Mhm.
be trained to be on leashes. I was camping one time and there was a cat on a leash, and it had a relatively long leash, and it went hiking with them. And I was like, wow, that's really amazing. My cat would not do that. But it's
Jeanette,
all it's the same thing like kids. What have you trained the kid to do? If they went hiking all the time, if you've got a little kid and you're going hiking all the time and that's its normal, it will go hiking with you. If you've got if you take the dog hiking with you, or the cat hiking with you, and this is what we do, then it will do it. If you, oh no, my cat won't do this or my dog won't do that, or da, da, da. And people use pets, kids sometimes as an excuse for something they don't want to do.
no,
I and that's a whole other ball game. But
that's a
um
whole nother ballgame. But I'm just thought about something, because you're right. I did try the cat leash when I had a cat, and like I said, I've cat sat as recently as a year or a year and a half ago, and everything. And you're aware of that because it's been during the time of this show and all along those lines. But I've had my own cat, and I do remember trying to put a leash on the cat, and the cat basically rolled over and looked at me like, "Nah, we're not doing this. I'm not going anywhere with you." And this rope around my neck and everything. Nice try, Mark, but I'm not going there and doing this. And so it was kind of like your cat, Pixie. He was not having it. But I
no,
did have another question. I did have
you
another question that comes back to
have
kids.
I think you have to do the cat thing as a kitten. I think because
Yep.
mine won't even wear a collar. But I think if you do it as a kitten and you go, then they realize, oh, I get to go do this. I get to
Mhm.
go out and do stuff. Then you might have more luck. But
Yep.
an adult
Yep. That
cat,
makes
not gonna
Yeah,
happen.
don't get not have to happen. I did have another question that came to me and everything that, and I know you might have some that other people have sent, but sometimes uh, we as adults love games, and sometimes the games become part of the house and everything. I remember that when I was a youngster, my dad used to have train sets, and me and Malika are still, because that's my brother, are still convinced to this day that that train set was more for his enjoyment than our enjoyment when we were kids and all along those lines. But I do know that sometimes those become part of the furniture, because sometimes you can have whole intricate chain sets that are in the living room, and you can have whole intricate games that stay open, like Monopoly and everything else, that are in the living room as well. So So I guess my question is, how much should that be a separate room, like maybe a game room, or should there be a way that you can uh, integrate those kind of things into your regular living room? Because, like I said, I know that when we were youngsters, we did have some train sets, and I want to say that Dad built them, and eventually they were dismantled. But sometimes they might be there in the living room for a matter of days and everything. So I was just wondering your take: should that be integrated into more of a game room, or is there ways that you can integrate it into your regular household?
So if you have the space, and it also depends on how it's worked. So I have a client
Right.
who's really into um, the role playing, like Dungeons and Dragons. It's not Dungeons and
Mhm.
Dragons, but that kind of stuff. And
Right.
so he's got the outdoor ADU kind of. It's an outdoor. It's a room not attached to the house, but that's his game room.
Right.
And so the boys come over, however often they come over, and they sit and they play the game. And those games take forever. It's not something you sit down and you
Yeah.
play for an hour and it's over. So they can leave all the pieces and play, and the next time they come over again. There are actually in now, if it's something that's maybe you're doing more with kids and you want to have the family thing, and or maybe you don't have the other room to do it, it can be incorporated into the living room. There are actually game tables
Oh,
that
wow.
are designed to hold several different types of games, and it's a place, excuse me,
Mhm.
and it will hold the games, and then you can turn the tabletop over, and maybe you've got a chess game or a Chinese checkers game, or maybe it's Monopoly. Then you can have the game inside. So maybe they can have 2 or 3 different games in there, and then there's also a space to leave the pieces if you want to leave the pieces while you're playing. Maybe you didn't get to finish the game, you wanna come back. So it can be clean and just be a flat table, or you can have it open or flipped over and you will have your game pieces. So it can be incorporated into any room. A lot of people don't really use their dining rooms anymore, and or they use it only for company. So having a dining room is another way that you can do it. Pool tables. There's a lot of tables that can uh, they do double duty. It can look like a regular table. You take the top off, and now you have a pool table. So there is a lot of out there. In fact, I just sent my client that has the game room this gorgeous table, and it was made for those kind of role playing games. And it's got places to put all the pieces, and it has a place for storage for a couple games. And literally you just kind of take the top off, and there's your game. When you're done, you can put the top back on very easily, and you're all set. You've got a table, a workspace, a dining table, whatever it is you want. So I think it just needs a little bit more careful searching than, I'm looking for a game table on Google. What's the first three that come up? There's a lot of wonderful stuff out there. You just have to look a little bit more. So, all right. So I have a few questions. One of the questions I got was, what color should I paint my door? And this is kind of half a question. I can't honestly tell you without a picture of your house. So there's a lot of things around door colors. Many people want them to stand out. There is a tradition that a red door brings in money. That's a Chinese feng shui thing. And then what shade of red? So maybe you have a greenhouse. You want to use, and you want a red door. So you want to look at complementary colors. So if you look at the color wheel, you look at your shade of green, and you want to go straight across the color wheel to red, and that will give you your shade of red. So like at Christmas time, it's forest green and berry red. It's not forest green and pink. It's not lime green and berry red. If you want it to stand out, then you want to do the complementary color, and that's going to be just exactly what's opposite of the color wheel. So if you have a dark green house, you can do a dark green, a dark red door. If you have a light green house, you could do a pink door, I suppose. I don't know. Have I ever seen a pink door? I guess there's pink doors, but you want to look at that. So that's one way to play it. A lot of times people do natural wood doors. Another thing you want to look at is what is the style of your house? And with each house style, there are a set of colors that were historically accurate with it. So you can play with those. Let's say you have a house that's yellow, gold. Okay, so you want to bring out color. Oh, I just did this house. It was so cool. So she had kind of a brownie gold color. And then we did this orange, almost the same color as my shirt on her door. Oh my gosh, it came out so pretty. And it just gave it enough accent to stand out, but she didn't want it too dark. She was somebody who didn't want dark colors. And so this was about as dark as she needed. And so, again, that's looking at the color wheel. You're looking at kind of the analogous color, but it's still got to be within the similar strength. So with this kind of brownie gold house, I would not have done, look. Don't you love dead time? So this orange would have been too bright. Okay. It needed to be more of a pumpkin, not bright orange. I could have done more brown with her. So you want to look at, if you're not going to plan on painting the house, you want to look at what's the color of the house. Again, it's about harmonizing. What color is going to harmonize with what you've done? And then the next question is, how do you want people to feel when they walk in your house? That your front door, your porch, is an introduction to what's going on the inside. Maybe you live in the South and you've got white furniture, you've got a haint blue ceiling. Haint blue is this really light blue. I have a friend who she lives in the South and she just painted her haint blue ceiling. She's like, "Oh, is this blue?" I said, "It's haint blue." And she said, "What's haint blue?" I said, "Well, it keeps the ghosts away." That's what they say. And she sent me a picture. She says, "I'm just sitting here loving my blue ceiling." And she's got white on her, all of her trim. Now, she's got a brick house. Now, what we could do in this case is we could do a deep blue. That could be really cool. She does have a lot of white. We could take the haint blue, but the brick's a little bit too dark for that haint blue. So we could go a deeper blue and still tie that haint blue in, but go darker with it. So that will balance out the bricks. Could have also done a yellow door for her. She's a bright, sunny, happy person. There's always lots of flowers. She's got flowers near her door. That's another thing to look at. What's the landscape around? Maybe can you bring in some of the colors from the landscape to enhance the door? Maybe you just do a darker color of what's on the paint. So you see, it's a very simple question. What color should I paint my door? And if you go online, you'll see that question a lot. And oh, I think you should paint it blue. Why? Because they like blue. But they're not taking into effect or into account any of the other factors. They're just, well, I like blue. My door's blue. You should paint your door blue. My door's purple. You should paint your door purple. What if you don't like purple? Well, I like purple. You should like purple. You want to look at the whole picture. Again, it's all about creating harmony. What color are your plants? What color is your walkway? What color is your porch? What color is your house? How do you want it to feel? You can go look at my book. What's color got to do with it? There's all kinds of stuff on how the colors make you feel. And you want to look at what's the color of the house. If you've got a craftsman house, you're not going to paint it white. Go look at the craftsman colors. They're gorgeous. They're olives. There's golds. There's reds, rusts. Beautiful colors for a craftsman house. If you've got a more modern house, you probably don't want those colors. You're looking more at your whites, your grays. You got a farmhouse. Maybe some golds, some yellows, some greens. Got a Spanish style house. It's going to be rustic colors, dirt colors, adobe pinks, browns. I say pink, I don't mean pink. I mean like a taupey pink. Honor what the house is, and it will honor you. I had a house one time, that Spanish style house, and clients wanted all these bright sari colors, bright blues, bright pinks, chartreuse. It was a lot. The house was like, I'm not having this. House was just, I'm not having this at all. Fought me tooth and nail. Finally, I told her, I said, I need to talk to the house. Let me be here for an hour without you guys. And did. I talked to the house. And the house was just like, what are they going to do to me? I don't want to be these colors. I'm a Spanish style house. Da, 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 da. And I got the house calmed down and I said, look, I'm not going to do anything ugly to you. And I had to get its trust. And then what we did is we found some Pompeii colors. So they're still bright, but they still worked with the architecture. So we did use some golds. And I don't remember all the colors we used. We did find some blues, but they were a little bit calmer than what she originally wanted. But it worked out really, really pretty. The house came out stunning. And even the house, which was so worried before that it wasn't going to be able to handle what was happening, was proud. It was proud of itself. And so proud of all the amazing colors. But I didn't know it could be that way. Just perks of the job. The house is not cooperating. we gotta fix that. I do that. That's why I'm the color whisperer, because I whisper at houses and the colors. So anyway, really look at the whole environment, no matter what it is, whether it's your front door, your inside. We talked about kids' rooms. We talked about, trends influencing the house and why. And they're going to come and go. And that's my other word on trends. So if a color that you like is trendy, buy. That's the time to remodel, because it's going to be so easy to find stuff you like. I can't tell you how many times I have been working with something that was, a beloved old rug, China set, whatever it was. It was from Great Aunt Sue. Well, colors were a lot different when Great Aunt Sue bought it. And now I got to mix and match and make something today work when those colors aren't in. And it can be difficult, not impossible. It can be difficult. So when the colors that you like are in, that's the best time to buy. When the colors that if the colors that are trendy are colors you don't like, just wait a little while. They'll come in. So those are my words for today. We didn't get through very many questions, but this was a lot of fun. We will do it again. So if you have more questions, go ahead and send them to Mark or to me. Mark is bluesradio@gmail.com. I'm design@thecolorwhisperer.com. And we'll get your questions answered. And while we're talking about having a bunch of healthy colors in our life, let's talk about having some healthy colors in our diet. We have got to have all the right elements to create a healthy being. Whoops. There goes that tech monster again. Anyway, let's go get some good food in ourselves. We'll go and get some Kendu spices so that we can be healthy on the inside. And hey, if you're brave enough, go turn your phone off for a day and see how you feel afterwards. I guarantee you'll feel more rested. All right. We got some Kendu spice.
You know how people love to enjoy food and don't understand how to flavor their food or how to replicate a meal? They're interested in supplements but don't know where to begin? Well, what I do is I take the guesswork out of enjoying flavor and wellness with my flavorful spice blends so that they can create delicious meals with healing benefits. Kendu Spice was created to help cooks at
The only trick you need to save time and money is to shop at Aldi. Aldi. Shop differently. Limitless length plus volume. Sensational from every angle. New Lash Sensational Sky High Mascara. Only from Maybelline, New York. Everything that touches your baby should be this comforting. Pamper Swaddlers. The #1 choice of hospitals is 2 times softer. All right, Trivago. Find me a hotel somewhere in Thailand where I can wake up with a view of the ocean. Awesome. The future. It's impossible to see. And when it's finally here, it might not be what you'd expect. It might just be better. Introducing Luxury Electric. Introducing Lucid Air. We're for those who love to discover, who don't need to travel to find something new, and who know when you spend less, you can discover even more at TJ Maxx and Marshalls. Smooth, velvety chocolate wrapped in precious gold. Ferrero Rocher.
You know how people love to enjoy food and don't understand how to flavor their food or how to replicate a meal? They're interested in supplements but don't know where to begin? Well, what I do is I take the guesswork out of enjoying flavor and wellness with my flavorful spice blends so that they can create delicious meals with healing benefits. Kendu Spice was created to help cooks at any level enjoy healing through food. Every spice blend was designed to give added health benefits of natural herbs. Every blend is complete. There's no need to add any additional spice for a delicious meal. Saving you time and money while adding supplements to your meals can be both tasty and fun. My earliest memories in the kitchen began with my father, Kenny Can Do Bond, so it was fitting that I would name this line after him. I have always looked to natural remedies to supplement the body, and I found myself hiding herbs and minerals in foods for my family. That's when it hit me. Everyone needs Can Do Spice. Everyone should be having this. It's an exclusive brand for cooks at any level who want to create flavorful dishes with healing benefits that can satisfy the body and soul. Add a little spice to your life. Give Can Do Spice a try.